Hey everybody, welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. Today is Sunday, March 9th. Recording this one right after a nice Chelsea win to, I believe, put them in the top four in the Premier League. And yesterday there was a very unfortunate and forgettable match that happened in the Bundesliga. Actually, multiple forgettable, unfortunate matches, depending on who you root for, in the Bundesliga yesterday. But as always, we've got a lot to talk about, and this one is going to be a video episode. So go ahead, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just recorded a video for our 100th subscriber special that will be dropping shortly. Subscribe there to get in on all of that. And yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say off the rip, but take it away if you've got anything to go with.
Yeah, as always, check out the TikToks, the YouTube channel. Got a lot of good content out there. So getting to the point of the season where every match is super important. And if you want any information on it, give us a follow and a like.
Yep, we will be covering all of the stuff that's going on. I mean, Bayern's got a lot of Champions League glory to fight for, hopefully, this season. Chelsea's running in Europe in the Conference League as well. So a couple busy weeks going on, but as soon as that slows down a little bit, I mean, we've got an international break coming up here too. You know, we've got some extra stuff planned for you. So definitely stay tuned here. But I guess we might as well just go ahead and start talking about the Bayern match yesterday, in which Bayern Munich's B team essentially lost 2-3 to VfL Bochum in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, tough loss for Bayern. I mean, you're going with a squad where you're resting a lot of your key players, and matches like this happen. Bayern were bound to have a hiccup at some point, and I would say all things considered, it was the perfect day to have that hiccup where other teams don't make up ground on you in the league. You're resting guys, it's not going to kill your momentum at all for the Champions League. And so ultimately, it's just going to be a blip that we'll probably forget about. But nonetheless, you always want to see your teams win.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly would have been nice to really slam the door on the Bundesliga and then continue to rest guys going forward. We're saying this also because Bayer Leverkusen lost yesterday in the league as well to Werder Bremen. So Bayern would have gone up 11 points had they won. Still up 8 points now, so ultimately at the end of the day, it is what it is. But it would have been nicer, I guess, to have a bigger lead. As the Champions League heats up, you really have to balance who you're going to play, and in these sorts of matches. And to be honest, when I saw the lineup the company put out, I wasn't really upset with it. I thought it was good to rotate. Um, you know, Maybe you would have wanted one or two more starters in there, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're in this position essentially because Company took a long time to realize that he can rotate players. He's no longer at Burnley. He does have quality players on the bench at Bayern Munich. So, um, right now you have guys like Upamecano, Kimmich, Kane, Musiala, who Davies as well, who are not 100% healthy. So at this point, it's good to rest them. It just so happened that, Company decided to rest all of them in one match. And honestly, this squad should be able to still beat a team like Bochum. So, like I said, um, I wasn't pissed off when I saw the lineup. Granted, Bochum has been playing a little bit better lately under Dieter Hecking than they were beginning of the year, but nonetheless, I mean, this group of guys should have been capable enough to beat them, I think.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I mean, the depth that Bayern has, all those players are talented than all the players Bochum has for the most part, and I can say that without even knowing many players on Bochum. But yeah, it's a case where Bochum's desperate for a win as well. They're at the bottom of the table trying to avoid relegation, and Bayern are coasting at this point. But Nonetheless, it is good to get these guys minutes. You mentioned Company hasn't done it much this year with rotating, but these guys still do need to play, and you need to see what they have going forward. So a little adversity, it's going to be good for Vonson to see what those guys have to offer, especially playing with 10 men. I actually think it's pretty cool for them to see what the team could do.
Yeah, and we'll get into all that as we go through the match. And yeah, I'm just looking at Bochum's lineup here. I mean, yeah, there's a few players that you might recognize if you're a Bundesliga faithful, but Philip Hoffman's a good player. Timo Horn, their keeper, isn't bad either. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's Bochum and this is Bayern Munich. So let me run down the lineup the company put out. And um, to be honest, when I saw it, I thought it was going to be a back three, but it kind of worked more, I believe, as a back four, still kind of that 4-2-3-1. I actually thought it was going to be like a 3-4-2-1 kind of, but I mean, regardless, we talk about this a lot. Company, he likes to interchange players and their possession or their shape changes, pretty drastically in and out of possession. So whatever I don't know, formation you want to imagine in your head. It was essentially Jonas Erbig in between the sticks with Manuel Neuer, injured now at that Champions League match, injured his calf celebrating Musiala's goal. Um, Jonas Erbig, I actually thought looked pretty good. I have no complaints about him. None of the goals I really thought were necessarily his fault. He had a nice save later on in the match that saved things from going from 4-2. Um, Sasha Bouet, Josip Stanisic, Eric Dyer, Hiroki Ito was kind of that back line. Um, man, Sasha Bouet, I I think he might need to be sold in the summer, unfortunately. He's been injured so much, never really got his feet under him at Bayern, but he hasn't looked like anything special every time I've seen him. He just seems like a bench guy, to be honest with you. Uh, Stanisic, Dyer, and Ito, I thought were all decent on the day, but I think Stanisic is just so much better at right back. I was interested to see what he would be at center back, but um, he just it kind of hurts his ability to go forward, which he's really good at, and he's not I don't know. Something didn't look right for me with him at center back there. So I think I'd rather see him at right back. Again, it was only one match, so who knows? But um, Joao Palhinha and Leon Goretzka were in the midfield. The attacking setup was Leroy Sané, Rafa Guerreiro, Serge Gnabry, and Thomas Muller. Um, and one of the reasons why I thought the lineup was going to be different was seeing Guerreiro's inclusion, but he was for sure. I don't know if you want to call him a 10 or whatever. He was very fluid in the attack, but he was super far up and was essentially another attacker. I thought he was maybe going to be kind of part of the midfield situation, but turned out he was basically deployed as another attacker.
Yeah, certainly an interesting setup, especially with the way they used Guerrero and ended up working really well, with the way Guerrero did play. That back line, certainly all new pairings essentially. So it's tough when you're in the season here and you're putting guys together that maybe don't have the greatest chemistry. Ito, Bowie been hurt most of the year, Stanisic as well. Dyer, I trust, but when you combine all those things, it's like it's just gonna be tough. And they're all professionals, so I think they can handle it. But you can't expect maybe the greatest defensive result when those things all come together.
Yeah, in the beginning of the match, clearly they were figuring things out. It took them a while, like you said, these guys have never played together, so they were just feeling things out for a while. Although it looked good, once they found their groove, we saw the first goal come in the 14th minute there. Rafa Guerreiro gets the goal. Serge makes a nice run into the box, goes down, and luckily the ball just kind of squirts out right to Guerrero. So all of the defense collapsed on Serge as he ran into the box. And it might have even been looked at for a penalty. I'm not sure, but didn't need to be because the ball just took a nice bounce right to Rafa and a nice finish from Rafa. I mean, he is a very good attacker and um, in this type of a role, especially like I've mentioned before on this show, I don't think he is quite where he used to be defensively. It takes him a while now to get back, and he's usually a step behind. He's obviously not a very physical presence, but he's kind of just a sneaky little attacking player, I would describe him as. And it wasn't long before more action happened in this match because first half was pretty action packed, and the 20th minute. Bayern saw their chance slip through their fingers to really close the door on this match. And make no mistake, match would have been over. Leroy Sané does a nice job drawing a penalty in the box, just blows by some guys, and they have no choice really but to take him down. Otherwise, it's a free goal for Sané. So smart move by Bochum, taking Sané down in the box. But yeah, the penalty happens, and we were kind of texting about this. Muller probably would have been the best choice to take this penalty. And second choice, you're going with Zane. So I was kind of surprised to see Serge Gnabry step up to take the pen, but yeah, unfortunately, life without Harry Kane, this is what it's like when you don't have somebody who can make every single penalty all the time. You get Serge Gnabry up there and, you know, just hits the ball off the post and yeah, misses the penalty. So their chance to close the match, I think slips away there. I mentioned this to you, but I think those chances can come back to bite you. Now, granted, Bayern still should have been able to win this match. They were still in control for a while, but I don't know. It's just a lot of times in sports, these things like this, you can never you can't escape them sometimes.
Yeah, it's tough. I agree, with a lot of what you're saying there. Yes, Bayern probably should win without it. Yes, I do think things come back to haunt you. I also think all three of those guys are very willing and capable of taking and converting penalties. Muller, Gnabry, Sane all have years and years of experience playing with not only Bayern or other big clubs, also national teams. So they should be able to step up and take a pen and you know it was pretty much almost a perfect pen. He did just barely hit the post there. So I don't know. I think it's still a confident pen at the end of the day and maybe just a little unlucky. And then from there you just have to be able to remain composed and take control. And unfortunately, I think maybe that's just what Bochum needed to get back in the game.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Eric Dyer take that penalty. I've been just begging for that man to get his first Bayern goal. He's got one in a friendly, but I need to see him get a goal in a, Bundesliga, Champions League, whatever match. So if I was Vincent, I'm sending Dyer up there to take it. No, just kind of funny because actually Dyer had a really good chance in this match, a header off of a corner, I want to say, where just barely missed it. And yeah, that was maybe a sign of things to come. Gnabry's miss that Bayern was not going to be enjoying or getting a present on their 125th anniversary birthday, which I should have mentioned this up top. Really sweet kits. I hope they wear them more. I'm not sure if they will. They're not planning to, I don't believe. But yeah, I mean, those kind of burgundy or maybe more maroon kits with the gold lettering, white shorts, the 125-year crest, and then this really cool detailed pattern. Really sharp, looking really sharp.
Yeah, I really like the kits. Love what they're doing with everything related to that anniversary, and love when teams can take advantage of stuff like that. I mean, you can call it a money grab if you want, but you're also just celebrating, history and the togetherness of the team and city and fans. So it's always special when you do that.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, back to the match. The next action of the match, 28th minute, we saw the second goal happen there. Thomas Muller got the assist, and Rafa Guerreiro puts a header in, which probably poor defending because I don't know how you let a little guy like Rafa Guerreiro into the box and head it in. But I don't want to take anything away from Guerreiro because that was also another nice goal from him. And he was just kind of everywhere at once in the start of this match. And, you're feeling really good at this point, up 2-0. Um, they would never blow a 2-0 lead to Bochum, right?
Yeah, they say 2-0 is the most dangerous lead in sports, hockey and soccer. So maybe that's part of it. But you can never rest in this league. So credit to Bochum for staying in there. And yeah, that goal was nice once again by Guerreiro, I will say. I'm pleasantly surprised by him every time I see him.
Yeah, I agree. That was a good goal and good for Thomas Muller as well. You know, he didn't do a whole lot in this match, but he still ends up on the score sheet. So, um, just want to say kudos to my guy. 31st minute, Bochum does pull one back off of a corner. And, you're kind of thinking that might just be a blip. I mean, Bayern went to sleep for a few seconds there, but I didn't really feel at that point like they were in a ton of danger. Just kind of one of those things. Bochum scores off a corner. Nothing really Urbig could do. Actually, Urbig got a lot closer than I think a lot of keepers would have on that one. It was just a nice shot and, no possible way to save it. But I was really shocked with how athletic Urbig looked just on that attempt.
Yeah, corners are tricky. It's anybody can score on set pieces. It's one of those things where certain teams might be better, but still it's one of the things that lesser teams love because, you know, when you're down in a match, it can be a great way to get you back into it.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly what happened next was the moment of the match, whatever you want to call it. But 42nd minute, Joao Palhinha gets a red card. Super unfortunate for Joao. I feel bad for the guy. He has had a really tough time acclimating to the Bundesliga, staying healthy, all that stuff for Bayern. And he seems like a great guy. I mean, every time I listen to him talk, it seems like he loves the club. He wants to, do good. He's happy doing whatever role he needs to. And just one of those things, he makes a pass and a foot slides underneath his foot and lands on Bochum's player's kind of ankle area and just sees a straight red for it. And really, after that point, the entire momentum is with Bochum, and the entire match kind of is turned on its head.
Yeah, it's a tough scenario. Very, very unlucky for Joao Palhinha. I'd have to look at what the actual rules are for a reckless play to result in a red card. I was texting you this. I've seen this exact play before where they do give a red. I just don't know how the rule works. Even if you hit the ball first, clearly the rule must be that it's still a red. Like I said, I don't know for sure. It sucks. I mean the foot landing on there without the ball being in play there would definitely be a red. But yeah, that's where to me it's not deserving of one where there is the kick of the ball first. It's just tough, very tough.
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks. It's one of those things where it's almost like, what can you do? Because, you know, I don't. I think by the rule it could be a red. I saw a lot of people debating it online. I mean, seems like a dumb rule to me just because, I'm thinking back to even just the Leverkusen match where Mukele slides into Kingsley Coman's Achilles, studs up, ball is nowhere near him, and it's a yellow card. But João Palhinha can just make a pass and on the follow through hit somebody's ankle. It just doesn't seem right to me, you know. So it is what it is. I mean, I know that that's sort of how the rule is written. I think refs should be able to have a little bit more discretion in plays like this, but I'm not blaming this call on the ref. It is what it is. It just seems super unlucky. It kind of reminds me of in the NBA a lot of times where there'll be a defender and the offensive player will drive in and take a shot, just run into the defender, and it's a foul on the defender, and it's like, what is that guy supposed to do in that situation, you know?
Yeah, I agree in both scenarios. Your metaphor as well as the soccer here. They're unfortunate where there's just tough calls to be made by refs. Yeah, and if you don't call the red there, then you're seeing the replay as a Bochum fan and shouting for a red. That's why it's tough too,
Yep.
because with reds especially, a lot of times, you know, it'll be reviewed too, which I don't know if it seemed like VAR didn't even really look at this. I'm not exactly sure that, I mean, they had to have obviously because it's a red, but yeah, it's tough because you just don't know as a fan either what's all going on.
Yeah, I mean the penalty for a red is so harsh. That's why it's like it's so hard to call it in my opinion, because like that's just going to be a match altering thing. And I'm not saying that in this instance the match is over, right? Like I still think Bayern should have won this match up 2-1 at this point. Um, but I mean, just in the general conversation of what's a red card versus what's a yellow card, something like this where it's he plays the ball and it's so clearly accidental and the defender is sliding his foot underneath Zhao's foot, like it's so tough in my opinion just to make a call that's so harsh. Like the difference between a red card and a yellow card is just crazy.
Yeah, it is. I think really it comes down to refs just see your foot stomp on somebody, studs up, and they just give a red, no matter what. I think that's just what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think so too. And it sucks for Zhao especially because you know, Joao Palhinha was a Thomas Tuchel transfer. Bayern promised him that they were going to make the move for him 2 summers ago. He was in Munich about to be signed, and the deal fell through at the 11th hour. He was doing his medical and everything, like ready to. He had pictures of himself with the Bayern jersey, and yeah, it fell through at the last minute. And he clearly doesn't fit in Company's system. He clearly, in my opinion, is having the Kim and Jae problem from last year of acclimating to the pace of the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga is such a fast league, and Joao Palhinha is such a physical player, right? He was so good in England. The Premier League is way more physical than the Bundesliga, and so he was really good at that style of play, the style that Tuchel loves. Um, but he just, same thing happened with Kim last year, and you see it this year too with Kim coming in from Serie A, adjusting to the pace of the Bundesliga. I just think he's really struggling with that right now. And that's not to say it can't get better, but that's just what I see.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know too much about Polina when he was first signed by Bayern, and there were the rumors, ahead of that, and I kind of had seen him a little bit in the Premier League, but I did think he was going to be a lot more fiery of a player and really getting in the nitty gritty of being defensively strong. Kind of pictured him as that type of dude. So he's still got plenty of time. Some players just take a while to adjust.
Yeah, I think he's just better in those smaller spaces and that you really see more, those kind of tight, compact spaces that you just see a little bit more in the Premier League. But, it's so tough to tell because I haven't really even seen that much of him this year with how much he hasn't played. But, um, yeah, I guess back to the match. The next goal, equalizer, comes in the 51st minute, and it's just another kind of lack of defense for Bayern. And yeah, Bochum just scores a header. Again, I don't think Urbig really could have done anything there.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. It comes pretty much, a few minutes after half, and to me, it's just a lack of focus maybe from Bayern, and I don't know if it's just 10 men, the guys that are out there, um, not having inspiring ideas and grand plans to win this match. You're kind of focused on other things potentially. But credit to Bochum, as I keep saying, because they are the ones that are desperate for the win, and they're gonna keep fighting and keep fighting, and that eventually will usually come to fruition, and it did for them there. Yeah, I agree. Urbig probably couldn't have done anything about it. But you know, yeah, just tough at the moment.
Yeah, and at that point, Company starts to head to his bench. I think he wanted to rest these guys this whole match. I think the game plan was to be more aggressive, but when you go down to 10 men, that kind of goes out the window, and you can't really be aggressive. So, 63rd minute, Kane, Olise, Musiala, and Limer come on. Muller, Bui, Sane, and Gnabry go off, and at this point, Bayern's just fighting to win the match, and in the I don't even know what minute it was, maybe around the 70th, Bochum's third goal, 71st. Um, this was just an unfortunate moment because, you know, Kane goes into the box with the ball, beats, I don't know, maybe two or three guys, but Bochum makes the smart move of kind of wrapping their arms around him and bringing him down because it was, a clear goal for Kane. He's in the box about to score and they take him down. Bayern kind of is almost setting up for a penalty. In my mind, I was setting up for a penalty because I don't know why this wasn't called or at least wasn't like looked at or stopped right away. But yeah, Bochum takes the ball down right off that and scores. So 2-3 at that point. In my opinion, just unacceptable from the referee. I don't know what else to say. I think Bayern still should have done better and still should have just done better the whole match. But um, I don't know. I don't like that moment there at all.
Yeah, it certainly was interesting. I was thinking this game was 2-2. I recall a text that said that nothing happened in the game after the no pen.
Yeah, we'll end it there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, it sucks. And unfortunately, reffing being subjective a lot of times, we've talked about it a million times on this podcast. It's going to be tough. You're going to have breaks that don't go your way. We'll talk about it later with Chelsea. They probably should have had like three pens today that weren't called. So roughing is a huge part of the game. Unfortunately, it should not be a huge part of the game, but it is a huge part of the game. And that's the reality. And whether you like it or not, nobody likes it. But unless you're some sicko wannabe ref, it is what it is. And Bochum scores. It was a nice goal.
It
Once again,
was.
kind of credit to Bochum because they really capitalized. Bayern even had more possession and stuff in the second half, and a few chances of their own. So you got to capitalize when the refs hand you gifts.
Yeah, actually, Guerreiro was inches away from a hat trick. I don't know if you remember that moment, but Guerreiro actually beat the defense and had a one-on-one with the keeper and was just about an inch wide. Really should have done better, but you know, it is what it is. It's a game of inches. Kimmich comes on for Ito later in the match, but nothing matters. Urbig has one nice save after that. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say after that third goal. It was pretty uneventful. Match awards, if I were to give them out, Rafa man of the match easily. I'll give the Robin to Dyer and underrated defender Stanisic, Ito. Who knows? Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, as I said at the beginning here, it is the perfect day to lose a match, and I think Bayern are going to completely throw this one out as you should. Really, really shouldn't be any major analysis unless you're looking at potentially giving somebody some time over a starter. But I can't necessarily say there'd be anybody besides Guerrero and you're not going to play Guerrero in the 10. But maybe you look at Guerrero and say, okay, he's deserving of more consistent minutes somewhere on the pitch. But besides that, no reason to spend any time dwelling on this one.
Yeah, I'm sure the players certainly have already forgotten about it. I'm sure everybody on Bayern Company is fully focused on Tuesday's return. I guess return leg if you're Leverkusen. Um, Second leg Champions League round of 16 knockout um, at the Bayer Arena in Leverkusen. That's the one to focus on, right? Bayern's up 3-0, and it's funny because you see all these guys online now, all these really reactionary Twitter accounts. Oh man, we gave up 3 goals to Bochum. We're toast in this second leg, against Leverkusen, and I don't know. I don't see it like that. I'm confident that the guys are going to be able to um, pull it together and beat Leverkusen or beat them on aggregate and advance through to the quarterfinals in the Champions League. But yeah, I mean, hopefully these guys got enough rest and everybody's ready to go and can put this one behind them. And I think they'll be able to.
Boy, if there's any Leverkusen fan listening to this, it's going to be really tough because all this talk from you about second leg when they have a player that needs a second leg right now. And I'm talking about Florian Wirtz, of course. So tough scenes there.
Yeah, I mean, Wirtz goes down hurt in that Bremen match, and uh, I've been seeing conflicting reports. You know, he walks out of the stadium on crutches. That was one of the reports I saw, which makes you think it's a really bad injury. Saw a report today that it might just be a bruise. So who knows? I think it's gamesmanship by Leverkusen on purpose to not be like forthcoming with whatever this injury is. And I think Bayern would do the same thing. I talk about this all the time, but Bayern is never upfront with their injuries, and I'm always looking for a report from Bild or Sky Sports or one of these other German outlets to actually figure out what's going on with Bayern players when they're injured, since they never say anything. So, um, yeah, I mean. I don't think you can take anything for granted. I think Bayern has to put their best foot forward, put their best healthy lineup out there, and play with the same intensity they played in the first leg. But I do think if I had to make a prediction, if I was given a Polly the Cat prediction, a Polly pick, I would say that Bayern goes through. I think it's going to be a lower scoring affair, maybe something like a 1-1 draw.
I definitely was leaning draw or a 1-0 Bayern. I think Leverkusen are deflated right now and don't have much to offer, especially if Wirtz is out, which I think he will be. I think they're facing reality very fast, and suddenly things are going to come crashing down for the fans. And not only are they going to lose this, aggregate knockout round to Bayern, but you're not going to win the league. You're actually going to fall to third or fourth in the league. Alonso's going to leave, Wirtz is going to leave, and the fans are just going to be in a nightmare scenario where their team is back down to where they rightfully belong in the dumps.
Dang. Well, who knows if it's going to be that dark of a day, but yeah, I do think that Bayern Munich just performs differently in the Champions League. They just have enough guys who are mature enough. I do think it'll be interesting without Neuer. Uh, it's going to be a huge, huge test for Urbeg that Bayern was not expecting to do this early, but um, I don't think it's going to be the difference maker. Again, I'm not somebody who takes Leverkusen lightly at all. I mean, I still respect Alonso a ton. I still respect so many of their players a ton, and I think that they have that fight in them, and we've seen Bayern falter this year. You know, we lost to Feyenoord 3-0, but I do just trust these guys to perform under the bright lights, and I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. I think they're going to get it done to likely face Inter in the quarterfinals. And then, yeah, next Saturday, they're back in the Bundesliga against Union Berlin. So, plenty of matches coming up.
Agree, and I think they'll smash Inter. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is the time to make my full UCL prediction, but I've been texting you about it. I do think we're gonna see um, a Barca Bayern semifinal and a Liverpool Real Madrid semifinal. Um, and I do think that, well, maybe we'll save the full prediction for later, but that's my little tease for you. You got to keep the audience wanting to come back, you know.
that would be highly, highly entertaining.
I should mention this because we talked about it last time, but no official news yet, but it does sound like Bayern and Joshua Kimmich are inching ever so closer to a contract extension. After the Leverkusen match, Kimmich said, "Ball is not in my court." There are reports that they agreed on a deal. It's just got to be signed, and it'll be announced in the coming days. Max Eberl, when asked about it after the Bochum match, said, "Now the ball is up in the air, and it's just up to both of us to jump up and grab it." So, um, kind of a weird way to put that, but I kind of like sticking with the basketball metaphor.
Yeah, I love that, and certainly great news overall.
I guess why don't we turn our attention over to Chelsea with their 1-0 win over Enzo Maresca's Old Boys.
On to Chelsea, and I'm trying to collect my thoughts on this one, to be honest. Kind of thrifting a lot through social media, seeing what people are saying, trying to get the pulse of the fan base a little bit. I think it comes down a little bit from where I was immediately following the match and during the match. I talk a lot about needing wins, momentum. Premier League is tough. It is tough. I think Southampton's an outlier as a putrid team. Leicester, although not having a great year, I respect what they've built and done over the years. I respect a lot of their players. I respect their current manager, Ruud van Nistelrooy. So, I think they were always going to come play. And ultimately, it is a comfortable win for Chelsea. It's a comfortable win. They probably deserved at least another goal and maybe didn't get it. But I'm not going to be too sad about what I maybe was thinking wasn't the greatest performance. It ends up just being, your comfortable, basic, boring Premier League win.
Yeah, Chelsea got the win. That's what matters. They are now in fourth, I believe, unless some other matches have happened, but right around that fourth place spot in the Premier League table. That's the main thing, I suppose. Um, Boring match, I will say. I did not have very much fun watching that one. Maybe that's what you got to do. I mean, it depends on who you ask and what your coaching philosophy is, but in my opinion, just overall kind of a boring, uninspired match, but maybe that's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Chelsea didn't create a ton of chances in open play. When I say they deserved maybe another goal or two, it should have come in the form of penalties potentially. Early on, Palmer goes down. Didn't necessarily think that was a pen, but then they later get an actual pen um, that Palmer does miss, which I think we'll get to more. But ultimately, that's why we talk about boring because they're not creating as many chances from open play as they were in the beginning of the year. And whether that's a style choice from Maresca, which I think it is, or also Leicester, expecting to be more defensive. Um, I think it's kind of a combo of those two.
Right. And at times it looked like Chelsea was afraid to go forward. They were doing the U ball, swinging it around. It looked like they were afraid to go forward on Leicester, which I don't like that style of play. Hey, I'm not the coach. It worked at the end of the day, and I get it. Chelsea has a lot of injuries, but um, yeah, I don't know. They seemed also in the beginning, I wrote down beginning of the match, they seemed very reliant on that right side. And I wrote down, and I even texted you, I believe, that I want to see them utilize the left side more because Mark has been one of their best, if not their best players lately. And also, I wanted to see kind of Christo get involved more, Mark and Christo maybe link up or just, yeah, swing things around to the left side because it clearly wasn't really working on that right. And um, not to pat myself on the back, right? It's a little easy, a little too easy to armchair quarterback after the fact, but we did see a very nice run and goal from Mark happen as the only goal in the match later on.
Yeah, definitely an interesting balance between the right and the left side. You have on the left Cucurella, who gets up and attacks a ton. Caicedo hangs out more on that left side. Then you got Nkunku, and then of course Neto as the striker. But then on the right, you have Fofana at right back. Not his natural position. Isn't going to get up as far as you'd see somebody as Cucurella do. And you pair Fofana with Sancho, who doesn't provide a lot of speed necessarily, is more of a ball control type player. So just two interesting spots there. I would have almost rather seen Sancho on the left, and then, you're not necessarily throwing in Nkunku on the right. Maybe you put Palmer, but I think Sancho pairs much better with Cucurella than Nkunku. I just don't think Nkunku is still providing enough at this point. And I thought Sancho looked the more dangerous threat, even though he was on that weaker right side. So that's kind of an interesting battle for me in what Maresca is going through. I think you just need to figure that out. It's like the way these guys fit with each other, they just don't quite fit.
Yeah, I think for this match, I think Neto at striker is good. I don't think that's necessarily a long-term fix. I think I would have preferred Nkunku at the 10. Yeah, Sancho at the left wing and probably Palmer at the right wing, honestly. I saw after the match Enzo say that Palmer is sick or something right now, so he was uh, making an excuse for why he missed the penalty, maybe, but also maybe it's not an excuse. I'm sure there's certainly illnesses going around in the footballing world, but um, I don't know. I thought it was interesting because we also saw Palmer get subbed out, and I can't really remember, um, you know, that happening too much. I mean, I guess it's happened a little bit lately, but um, yeah, I also wonder if Palmer is dealing with some sort of just longer term lingering injury or something.
Yeah, it's been what a lot of people have been wondering lately, and I think it's all fair. I think clearly when you sub him out in the time that he did, something was up. And then in that case, why is he playing the 10 role where you're going to see the ball a ton and have to go up and down the pitch? You might as well throw him at right wing. I don't know.
Exactly my thoughts. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I guess at the wing you're going to run up and down a lot too to defend, but still, when you're in that 10 role, you're controlling so much of the possession in the game. I don't know. It's tough to really say, but yeah, I agree. Your point on Neto as well. You're definitely missing Jackson, and I see a lot of that on the internet. We've talked about it. You're missing Jackson quite a bit. Neto is doing the best that he can, and I love Neto. Don't get me wrong. The problem is you need Neto as a wing because the way that guy presses is unreal, and I love his energy. But you don't have anybody on the team to back him up with that. It's so frustrating to watch Neto at the end of the game. I mean, he was going hard, but then nobody's there to help him with the press. And Nkunku, too slow. Palmer, good at zonal pressing. Again, too slow. Sancho, one of the slower players you'll see on the wing. And then Enzo as well, if he gets up to press. So that I think is a key component as well that's missing. When you have Jackson leading a press and then has a Neto with them, I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's why you didn't see a very good slash effective slash was Enzo even trying to press that hard. I think that's why. I mean, you look at the players that you have available, but um, I don't know. I feel like I'm looking for some sort of in between situation, tactical setup. I'm looking for some sort of um, you know, you don't have to go out and press like crazy like you would if you have a Jackson up there, but you also don't need to be so defensive against Leicester. Um, because, again, Chelsea got the win in this one. I'm not necessarily even just talking about this match. I think it's a bigger problem with Chelsea. We saw they played Copenhagen the same way for a while. They played pretty damn defensive and I don't know, cowardly maybe is too harsh of a word, but they played um, a way that I don't want to see this Chelsea team play. I want to see this Chelsea team play more free and fun, kind of like you've been saying. And I get it with the injuries, it's going to look different, but maybe for now there's some sort of a in the middle path you can take.
Yeah, and I will say they play a lot better than that first half against Copenhagen, which was just brutal all around.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas this one, they certainly were in control in the first half. Second half, less control. Leicester actually had more control. But again, I'm seeing 20 shots and two big chances. So you're just not creating enough threatening movements and activity. One of those big chances, which we'll discuss more in detail now, is a Palmer missed penalty. And so then you have one other big chance, which if I had to rack my brain, I'm not sure what that would have been. Certainly not the goal. But nonetheless, they do get that chance with Palmer, but it's not open play. He does miss, and again, similar to Serge, it kind of just luck and um, in terms of the way, you're not going to make every pen and that sort of thing. But that's how it's been for Palmer as of late. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about that. I don't want to just completely rag on Palmer because I feel like I've been doing that a little bit lately. Um, Obviously a great player. Obviously, I think he'll bounce back, but not at his best right now.
yeah, so tough for him. And in that first half, like I said, Chelsea did control, and I was never worried per se. Leicester end up with point 0.1 xG, three total shots. Even when it looked like they were going to get forward on a counter, Vardy is way too slow and always just held things up, and then it fizzled out from there. So it's a game where Chelsea were comfortable, and thankfully, in the second half, a quarter of an hour in to the second half, we get a moment from a man that, you know, kind of shines and stands out as a penguin at times. And of course, I'm talking about Marc Cucurella because, tell you what, he is better as an attacker than a lot of players in the Premier League. And it's time he gets a lot of flowers because that goal was special.
Awesome goal by Mark. Agree with you that Leicester never provided anything of a threat, anything of really even sniffing a threat throughout the whole entire match. Yeah, awesome, fun goal by Mark. Distance shot, perfectly accurate. And he's been playing great lately. He's been arguably Chelsea's best player as of late. I think you can make an argument for that. I think he really, really shines in these types of matches where Leicester is not going to pose much of a threat. You have essentially three center back caliber players back there without him, even on that back line. So, not like he doesn't have to play defense, and he was good getting back when he had to in this one. But I think when he has that freedom to really roam up front, invert really far, and contribute to the attack without as much of the pressure to having to track back, he shines the most. Almost like a Guerreiro in a way, but I do think that Mark is a better defender and just a better all-around player than Guerreiro. No disrespect to Guerreiro, he's a guy that I love having on my team, a guy that you need, one of those utility kind of guys. But just similar in the way that I think of it, where Guerreiro is so dangerous on the offensive side when he has that freedom. And again, Mark played great defense today, but um, his offense is where I think he really, really can shine on this team.
Yeah, he's a difference maker, certainly getting forward. And I think at times Chelsea's strongest attack and most dangerous attack comes in the form of Marc Cucurella, which is crazy to say. But when Palmer's not on his game and Kunku's never on his game, Neto isn't the true striker, and Sancho doesn't provide much of a goal threat, more of a ball control assist threat. So that leaves a lot of times Enzo and Cucurella. And I think both those two guys are showing that they can do quite a bit in front of goal, providing assists, whatever the case. But it's crazy that, a lot of times your best attackers lately have been we'll call them two midfielders because Cucurella kind of is midfielder, almost left wing at times. Um, but that's what we have right now in this Chelsea team. And if that's what works, then I guess play up to it.
Yeah, Mark, Enzo, both certainly creating headaches for the defense, no doubt.
Yeah, so that is the goal that Chelsea get. They do end up making a few subs. Fofana was never going to play 90 minutes, so he comes out, I think, around 70. It looks like 73rd minute. Chalaba and George come on. Chalaba, I just have not seen anything from him since he got loaned back. But George came on for Palmer, which was interesting. We kind of discussed Palmer being sick, whatever that means. And then Achampong technically comes on late for Nkunku. It was an interesting point you made about the three center backs because it ended up being a good plan with how Cucurella could then be used. But that was also just due to the need at right back. Gusto and James were both out. So tell you what, you're really starting to see a thin squad for Chelsea. What happened to 45 players? Ooh, we can't even fill a team plan.
Yeah, I think I said that at the beginning of the season. I certainly thought that about Bayern too. People thought, how is Company going to manage all these wingers and all these midfielders and whatnot? And it's the reality is you have a long season, and winning solves everything. Ultimately, everybody's happy when you're winning. And if you have a coach that can convince players to get behind the goal, the overall plan, you're going to be fine. And in Chelsea's case, you are going to need a big squad, especially when you have a lot of injuries. You're playing Conference League. There's all these different tournaments. You're going to want to rest guys, play certain guys in other matches, and it's just I don't know. I can guarantee you we're going to hear the same thing this summer because Chelsea will make some moves, and we're going to hear the exact same thing, and we'll be sitting here next year, and it'll be, everybody will be needed, or almost everybody will be needed.
Oh, but we'll definitely hear it. I mean, when you got guys like Esteval coming in, Kendry Páez coming in, Santos will come back on loan, Petrovic will come back on loan. We'll have another goalkeeper crisis, so all these things will happen. They'll probably buy another couple of players. So, yeah, you're right. It's the endless cycle of how it works, and I get it. But I just chuckle because if you know anything about sports, you just know this stuff is always going to work itself out. But yeah, it's certainly ends up being a solid win for Chelsea. I think stylistically and tactically, it's just going to be interesting to see if this team can stay in the top four, top five spot the rest of the year with tougher matchups on the horizon. You know, yes, we have Conference League play that I'm confident in. This week against Copenhagen at the Bridge, but then you go to Arsenal away, and then after the break, you're going to have Tottenham at the Bridge. So those are going to be two matches against tougher teams. Spurs drew Bournemouth today. That's solid for them. So it's going to be very interesting in terms of how Maresca builds this team out and gets them to play against these tougher teams.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because, not just because Tell is now a Spur, but because uh, I think the style that Enzo's playing right now works well against the competition that they're playing, but I want to see what he's going to do against better competition. I don't know if I don't think what he's doing right now works against better competition. Although it is the Pep style of possession-based football, get a couple shots off and hope one of them lands. So who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Um, I think you can draw an Arsenal. I really do think you can, playing the way that they're playing,
Yeah, maybe so.
especially if Fofana is back. He's not part of the Conference League, so you're going to get him for another 70 minutes at least next weekend against Arsenal. So to me, I don't actually hate the plan of how they're playing, because when you do have Fofana, your defense is a lot stronger, especially if Reece James is back, which he should be. Sounds like he was just ill. So, I think if you have Colwill, Fofana, James, and Kukure as your back four against Arsenal, I would be pretty confident in terms of being able to stick in there. I just don't think Arsenal are this massive threat all the time. They're just super solid defensively, and they're playing united right now and just really not doing anything because of the way they play. So that'd be what I would almost go for is a draw against them. I'd probably be more worried against the Tottenham just because I think you almost need to be able to play hectic, and I don't know if Chelsea have that anymore.
Yeah, uh, certainly Spurs are a hectic team. They're an unpredictable team, certainly. They're almost the definition of unpredictable, whereas Arsenal is almost the opposite of that. I can see where you're coming from. Um, yeah, if those guys get healthy, then your defense as Chelsea is going to be a lot more solid. I was almost thinking that they don't have the team right now with the guys that are hurt to play that way, but um, I could be wrong, you know. And also, when some of the more attacking players get healthy, you could have more guys available to play a more aggressive system. Um, and I could see it working out for a draw against Arsenal. I just I never like playing for a draw. And I get that that's smart sometimes, but it's just so deeply ingrained in my spirit that I never want to do that because the way I see that playing out is an Arsenal set piece goal in the 90th minute. You know, you fight so hard for a nil to nil draw or something, or just a fluke play happens and they score. But you know, nonetheless, I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries, and I, of course, am not high on Arsenal after I watched them in the Champions League under the brightest of lights last year.
No, I mean I definitely agree. I wouldn't expect Chelsea to win that type of match. I think Arsenal are better suited to either get a late goal or just have something go wrong in Chelsea's defense or with Robert if he's back there because apparently he's the number one keeper now. So
Yeah, I didn't
um,
expect him to start this one. That's kind of weird.
and I don't think it was some kind of oh Leicester are bad we're starting our number two because Sanchez just played against Copenhagen. So you would have figured Jorgensen would be out there.
Yep.
Or or did Jorgensen play against? No, he played against Sanchez played against Copenhagen, I think,
He
right?
did because that was the first bald Sanchez game, and I thought, here comes Tim Howard reincarnated.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, his bald head looks way worse than Tim Howard's did, but um,
Tim Howard has a
I
better
mean,
beard, that's why.
I mean that's the Secretary of Defense we're talking about. So
That's right.
absolute legend, Tim Howard. But yeah, where was I going with that? Yeah, probably some mistake loses against Arsenal. But yeah, we look forward to the Copenhagen match here Thursday. Hoping that it's going to be a comfortable win. You're already up 2-1. If you can get an early goal, that'd be nice. And then maybe you can play some younger guys. I do think they'll go with again a fairly strong lineup, kind of mixed. I don't think you're going to see Shim again starting. I think Maresca will understand that they do need that goal right away. But we'll see what happens in that match.
Yeah, you got to go with a mixed lineup, in my opinion. Um, and you gotta, I would say, be aggressive. I would say get a goal early, be aggressive, and then, um, you know, start to think about things depending on how the match goes. Maybe you're up by a couple goals, 60, 70th minute, start to rotate some of those guys out. It's what I would do.
Yeah, definitely agree. And hopefully Chelsea can get it done, and then really just give it your all against Arsenal, which I'm sure we'll talk about after the Copenhagen match. So big week ahead.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add about anything except for you got to subscribe to YouTube. That's the only other thing I would say. You got anything else to part with?
I guess the only other thing, which I somehow didn't talk about at all, but I do want to give some flowers to Moises Caicedo as always, and this makes sense because we talk about how underrated he is, so we forgot to even bring him up. But the guy is such a star, such a rock for this Chelsea team. He's teetering on the level of one more yellow, gets him banned for a couple games, so we'll see what happens. But he will be ready for that Arsenal match, and he's going to be your key player along with Marc Cucurella and Enzo Fernandez. But those three right now are the cog, are the machine for Chelsea. So shout out to Moises for another top performance.
Yeah, Caicedo is always great. He's one of those heartbeat guys. I think he's one of those pulse guys who um, is always so important to how Chelsea plays. And, you know, you could throw the captain's armband on him, in my opinion, and it would be deserved.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think with that we can send it off. Again, thanks for sticking with us and stay tuned, subscribe because we will be putting out tons of useful content and coverage for these big matches coming up. We're heading into the uh the part of the season where things get really fun and things really start to matter. Yeah, I guess that is going to be that. Thanks again for sticking with us and listening and watching. Mia san Mia.
Up the Chelsea.